isn't it going to look a bit weird with us sitting on the ground? I mean, I know it means we'd have to tidy everything up, but... Oh,
no, it's fine. It's fine. Well, I'll just come and sit here like this.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I think so. Well, it's meant to take 100 kilos, isn't it?
What if we'll have to get up at the same time, and actually we'll have to get up?
Hi, welcome to Podpadstudios.
Welcome to Podpadstudios. I'm Missy Breaker.
I'm Master Maker.
And today we're getting stuff ready for REME.
Yep.
We're mega busy, so there's a sci-fi day at the REME Museum in Lynham, and we're going to be doing that.
I probably need to put extra legs on this, don't I?
I think I may need to put some extra weight on.
No. It can support 200 kilos. Well, the tank transporter can pull 200 kilos. Anyway, don't do that because you'll break it and then I'll have to fix it all anyway. So what are we doing?
There's a lot of other stuff going on, isn't there? Because we are doing a massive big show at the end of September, last 2 weekends of September. And one of the things you're doing for that is getting Rose 2 ready. Yeah,
so so for those of you who know Rose is the little little baby dragon, the fledgling dragon. But she was never ever designed to go out to loads and loads of shows. She was designed for maybe 1-2 shows. And she just became a bit of a hit, didn't she?
Yeah.
Everybody just loved her because she was in a little kind of cage. So what we've decided to do, because obviously she broke, the servos inside were little servos and they just weren't up to it. So instead of scrapping the Rose idea, we've decided to actually update her, and she's now bigger, she's grown up. She's like not a teenage Rose.
She's like a 7 or 8 year old.
Yeah,
That's
so
kind
anyway.
Of like junior school Rose.
But I've been doing a load of work on her, so if you, watch
Have
this.
a look at this.
Hi and welcome to Podpadstudios. I'm Master Maker and this is Rose, or it was Rose. Now, if you're particularly squeamish and you don't like sort of seeing the insides of dragons, then I suggest that you sort of perhaps watch another video now because this isn't going to be suitable for you. But anyway, so Rose, some of you will know Rose, our little baby dragon. Rose was actually built and designed for one event a while ago, several years ago now, where she was going to appear with Stardust and Steel. She was certainly never designed to go out and do the loads and loads of events that she's done. The reason that she wasn't designed for that, I know she looks like there's a lot of work involved, and there is, but if we look at basically what's inside Rose, she's made of lollipop sticks. So this is just neoprene over basically what is in effect lollipop sticks with servos kind of stuck in with glue on sticks. And you can see it doesn't get much cruder than this. Now, the thing with that is it's great when you first build it, it's fine. But these tiny little servos just can't deal with the pressure of the neoprene, the thickness of the neoprene, even though we're running 1mm neoprene with the scale stuck on. They just can't last. And Rose obviously was in a little cage, so she was particularly safe in the cage. But the servos just burn out. And, you know, she just wasn't designed for that longevity. So, what we've thought about, well, as we did with Stardust and Steel, dragons every 3 years shed their skin and they get bigger. So this is what we're doing with Rose. So basically, Rose is going to be reborn as Rose Mark II, and she will be bigger and she will be stronger. And this time I'm going to design her and build her so she lasts a significant amount of time. Now, with that in mind, you can see what I'm starting with here is we're doing everything with kind of aluminium frames. Now, I've actually done a little bit of 3D printing. I've printed these. Instead of sticking servos in, the servos are going to be mounted in servo holders, which means I can then just bolt them in. So these can be mounted to the superstructure, and then the servos can be mounted in. So if the servos do fail for any reason, they can be changed. You'll also notice they're significantly larger servos, 25 kilo servos, waterproof servos as well, and cordless. So they're significantly stronger than the servos that Rose had on her before. There's also quite a few of them. Keeps going on and on and on. And she's starting to cost money already. So lots and lots of servos, which have all got to be fitted. But the first thing we've got to do is obviously build the frame. Now, I've started here with the tail system. Again, it's going to be done a little bit more logically. So this was simply, as you can see here, let me just unplug these two servos off the polyloop board, and then you get a much better sense of how this works. These are literally two servos. The lower servo stuck to a stick, which allowed, you can hear the servo is just awful, that allowed the tail to swish side to side in its upper section, and then halfway down another servo that allowed it to do that. So you created a kind of that sort of effect, and it looked good. Problem is, you can hear the servos, they've just all burnt out, they've just all gone. So, new design, I've done this design before, printed with, or sorry, cut with this plastic foam board, which is really nice stuff to work with. And then what produced is loads of discs on a central flexible core, cables, and you can see it's all mounted here into an aluminium. That's where the servo is obviously mounted in. Nothing's kind of bolted in properly yet, it's all just mocked up. But when we move, I'll give you a little demo here. When we move the servo, again, nothing's mounted in properly yet. When we move the servo, we pan left and right, we end up with a flexing dragon tail. And that is how you make a dragon's tail. It's the tentacle idea. Now, it sits on the floor. What I might do is put another tensioner at the top, which means then if the tensioner is at the top, when Rose has picked up her tail, isn't going to flop down. I don't think it's a problem because I think it looks quite cool when it's on the ground. But obviously, in that orientation there, you can see then the tail flexes. But obviously, like that, the tail is on the ground. It won't flex in the same way. But anyway, as I said, none of these cables are tensioned yet, and nothing's. It's just all mocked up because obviously this has all got to come off, because this is just the beginning of the frame. We'll then have obviously the wings mounted on servos, mounted at this kind of angle up here. And obviously then the head mechanism. Now the head mechanism is a lot more complicated simply because we're going to go with the head mechanism. We're obviously going to do an up and down system. I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to use this system, which would involve obviously two servos giving me two axes of movement, X and Y, or whether I might just use a straightforward lifting system, because her head also tilts to give her that kind of inquisitive look. So that's the next bit, to work out the different linkages and how that's all going to work. But basically, there you have it. This is the beginning of the Rose Mark II rebuild. Right, so back out in the workshop now. Obviously, I showed you earlier about how Rose's tail works. And obviously, using the servo system, we can obviously make the tail move backwards and forwards, and it has that kind of snake-like look. So I've been working on the body now. So the body, as you can see, is all made up in aluminium, and the servos are all kind of mounted so that if anything does go wrong with the servos, all here, they can be removed, they can be taken out. So you can see basically how I'm doing it here. The wings are fairly straightforwards. They're mounted straight onto, this is the lower part of the wing. Obviously there'll be an upper section that will come out from the wing as well. But these are going to have micro servos on those, which I haven't done yet. The feet, you can see down here again, I haven't put the feet on yet. So there'll be feet on the front here. So she will be able to sit like this and raise herself up and down. So this Rose could do it as well. She had feet as well. This one will have it as well. Now the head mechanism, the front mechanism here, you can see there, that's the turning mechanism for the head. The head pitch, that's this bit here. That'll have a micro servo which will be mounted on here. And then to support all of this weight, it uses a tilt mechanism. So it's hard to see really, but there's a servo down in here. And what that does is simply moves up and down. And when that moves up and down, her head moves up and down. Like that. And I can vary the length of this piece here, which would vary the lift. But I think what we want is we want our head kind of quite low. So I think that will be the highest point that our head will go. because it looks silly when she's up in the air. It looks like a dinosaur, and she's not a dinosaur, she's a dragon. So she'll be able to drop her head down and then turn and feed and then look up and then drop her head down and eat, because eating is probably the most important thing to Rose. Right, so as you can see, we're back with Rose in the workshop. This is Rose Mark II. Now, the design has changed a lot, and it had to, because obviously, remember, the original Rose was only designed to last 1 or 2 shows, and this is actually a remnants. This is what's left of her body. It was only made out of bits of wood and basically lollipop sticks, the original, and the servos, these little micro servos, were literally just glued in. So when they failed, if anything went wrong, then it's a matter of pulling it all apart, and it was really crude and really hard work. And anyway, that's all gone now. To give you an idea of the scale of the new Rose, that's a Rose's original head, and obviously that is the new head. So not massively bigger, but significantly bigger as far as Rose is concerned. So anyway, the structure is, as I said, it's completely changed. This is all aluminium. This is all been done with. And the idea is that the servos are all fixed in properly. They're all bolted in. So if a servo fails, we can simply remove the servo, no issues at all. A little bit of 3D printing. The brackets for the servos have been 3D printed with PET, so they're going to be strong enough, no issues whatsoever. This bit looks a bit crude, I know, and this is glued. This is a bit of wire that's basically been glued onto the aluminium here. The reason that's done is this is really the only area, apart from one in the head, that I've used these little micro servos. Now, they're one step up from these ones, which aren't very good at all. So they've got a lot more torque, but even so, they can't lift a great deal. And you can see here, the shaft is bonded straight onto the servo. So hence why this is a tiny bit of aluminium with a bit of wire put in. Now the idea is this will support the main wing, and the wing is so light that there isn't really going to be any stress on this servo at all. Hence why I've done that like that. What else? Oh yeah, electronics. So all the electronics are actually on board. So we've got a switch at the back, we've got a UBEC there, it's a 15 amp UBEC, and we've got obviously the 24 channel Polyloo board there. The UBEC obviously needs to be there because it's got to run all the servos with enough ampage, and we'll run it off our mains transformer, or we'll run it off a battery. We can run it on either. And as I said, she's completely independent now. And I keep saying independent. Remember, the original Rose had a rock. And she sat on her rock. She was basically glued to her rock because all her electronics actually lived in the base of the rock. But she was much, much smaller, and it was obviously a lot easier. The reason this one doesn't have a rock to sit on is because this Rose can stand up. Now, you notice I've got 2 big servos down here connected to the feet. And what these can do is they can allow her to sit up like this. So she can raise the front part of her body off the ground. So almost up into a begging position. So that's quite different from the original design. Tail you've kind of already seen. It's exactly, there's this new wire put in. This is a tensioning wire here. And the idea of this tensioning wire is the more tension is put on it, the higher the tail sits. So we'll work that when she's all skinned. And obviously then the servo operates in the same way. Simply moves the servo, the wires, and the tail moves around. Very, very simple. The head, again, linkages. So we've got the up and down linkage there. So this idea of this one here is this will move her head and neck up and down. This will allow, this servo here allows the neck to pan left and right. And obviously the combination of those 2 movements are going to give you some nice, fluid, almost snake-like movement. We kept the pan in her head, so Rose can kind of pan her head like this, left and right, which worked really well. People loved that in the original Rose, so we've kept that. Now, one thing I did have to do is the mounting of the servo was very, very different. And the idea, this was done very similar to the way we did the Vultures, but on a much smaller scale. The servo is mounted back and then supported through a bearing, through a bracket, which means the head is fully supported, not on the servo shaft, but actually on the bearing going through, which means if somebody was to grab the head or move the head, it's not going to damage the servo because there's a saver system that's been put in there to protect the servo. Hence, I can use a much smaller servo because fitting a second big servo into there wouldn't have worked because the neck's got to taper down, so the servo would have been too big. So that was a simple solution to use a very small servo, but make it effectively give it the same power as the bigger servos. Really, that is about it. So the next step is obviously going to be the skin, and it's going to be done in the same way that we did it before. So it's neoprene with thousands of scales put on, and obviously we do 3D printing all the little horns, and that will sit over as a skin that will go over her. And this one will be designed a little bit better again, so it can be removed if necessary. It all sounds very insensitive to Rose that we can remove her skin, but from a practical point of view, it makes it a lot easier to maintain later. And then obviously for scale again, you see that's Rose's original wing. Let's just compare that to what she's now got, and you can see there's a slight difference in size. So she has grown up a bit, but as we know with dragons, their wings grow quite significantly. Well, they have to, don't they, because they've got fly. So there you have it.
So this 1/6 scale stuff, you can see it all around us, Thomas the Tank and his trailer.
Well,
it's kind of caught your imagination, hasn't it?
Well, we got to do a little bit. I've done stuff in the past, and this was quite cool. It's quite good. Yeah, I think that one of the best things is you can build loads of them, and you don't have an issue of storing it. Yeah, I know it's still quite big. It's not exactly like what I think. What's the most popular scale model making? Is it 1/14 or 1/30? I don't know, whatever it is.
Airfix kit.
The smaller things, you know, you get the little tanks and the little trucks. I can imagine that's great because then you can just put them on shelves and whatever. So yes, as you can see, part of the tank here, it's a lot bigger. So, but not quite as big as the real thing. Although I'd still love to build a real thing.
So what's next? Because I see
the real thing.
No. I've seen some stuff just change the direction of thought. I've seen some things in the workshop happening. What's all that about?
Not bigger tanks, bigger lorries,
bigger
full-size lorries. Let's have a poll. Let's have a vote.
No.
Would you like me to build a full-size tank? Comment below. Right. Anyway, yeah. No, I am doing I can't pronounce it. Rosenbauer Panther 6x6. It's in a 6 scale. It's not full size because I'm not allowed to build one full size.
It sounds like a box of chocolates.
It might be. Yeah.
Be nice. Box
no,
of
that
chocolates.
was milk tray.
Huge box of chocolates.
So yeah, I've started it and it's really interesting. So watch this. So as you can see, I've done a fair bit more on the. We're just going to call it the Panther. It's going to be quite a big build actually. Obviously, this is the back. This is the front. You can see my thinking behind this. Instead of building the whole thing as a complete superstructure, I'm going to do it in 2 parts. I'm going to build a kind of a chassis section. So this lower section here will be the kind of the chassis section. Obviously, at the front here, it's mainly plastic and glass anyway. So that is the next bit that's going to be done. And then on top of here, I can build the main superstructure. Now I'm going to do that slightly differently. I'm going to do that with wood and aluminium. If I did it all with steel, it's just going to be so heavy that I don't think the little motor will be very good. And also, it's just not necessary to move that kind of weight. So it's very lightweight. I think it's 6mm ply that it'll be built up with, and then it'll be skinned with 2mm aluminium, which will give you the metal kind of look and the finish. But I've obviously got the structural integrity of the wood. And then obviously in these corners, there will be a frame built up at the back in here. So almost like a space frame. I'm actually using, it's really, really good, this 12mm section, which is excellent stuff to work with. So that will be up kind of like this, as created, and then obviously then skinned with the wood and the aluminium. This section here is where the main door is going to be, and obviously that's why it's cut out, is that there'll be a big locker going here, and that locker will obviously contain access to a lot of the electronics. Batteries are going to sit in the middle, and then over the motor itself I'm going to put the water unit. So all of my weight is over my rear axle, which will add to the traction then. The only thing I've got to watch is that I don't get too light at the front, because there's not going to be a huge amount at the front. But I'm thinking the batteries are going to sit here, accessible via these doors that are going to be either side. And I'm going to build a roller door. So the door will be able to roll up. I'll be able to access all the electronics and the batteries in this section here. But as you can see, it's kind of a long, long way from finished. This is going to take quite a while to do. If I move it round, it's not too heavy at the moment, but you can get an idea of the structure of this and how this is working really. The suspension is all in. Now obviously I've got these little pieces here on top, which you can, if I tilt back that way, you can see these little pieces here. These are the adjusters for the suspension. So by winding those down, I can increase the preload on the spring and make the spring much firmer. By winding them up, I can make the spring softer. So in effect, it's kind of cheating a little bit. The leaf spring is really just holding the axle in place. And it does provide, it's carbon steel, so it is providing flex, but the main adjustability is coming from the coil, which is acting on top of the axle. And I know it works because I've tried it in the other one, but I haven't tried the adjuster. So the adjuster is going to give me that flexibility that I don't have to choose springs and get the spring rates just right. I can play around with the preload on this. So that's where we are with the Panther so far. A lot of work to do.
So that's all for this video. Don't forget to come and see us down at the Carriage Works.
I got a problem with my links.
On the 21st, 22nd, 28th and 29th of September. That's the last 2 weekends. We're going to be open from 11 till 4 p.m. Last entrance 3:30. And the first day, the 21st, is going to be a bit of a family fun day. Our friends from MKG, Dalek Scarrow, some of the Droid Builders UK will be down there as well. So loads of stuff for the kids to look at. Kids, wear your costumes. Adults, if you like, wear your costumes. Not those ones. The family-friendly ones. And we'll be there, and we hope to see you all there. Bye!